My wife yelled at 4 a.m., "Stop interrogating me. You don't own me." I replied, "Then why does it feel like I've been living with a stranger for months?" The words left my mouth before I could soften them. Her face froze in the dim kitchen light. The clock above the stove blinked 4:07 a.m. in harsh green digits. Sloane Whitfield stood barefoot on the cold marble floor, her coat still on, her hair slightly disheveled like she had rushed home. I hadn't planned to confront her like this. Not at that hour. Not like a man who had been quietly unraveling for weeks. But something in her tone cracked whatever restraint I had left. She let out a sharp breath. "You're unbelievable, Carter." Her voice dropped, but it wasn't calm. It was controlled, and that made it worse. "You're standing here waiting for me like some detective." She tossed her keys onto the counter. "They're not clues, Sloane." I stepped closer, my voice steady but tight. "They're patterns." Silence stretched between us. Heavy, uncomfortable. Her eyes flickered toward the hallway, then back at me. That was the moment I realized something. She wasn't just angry. She was calculating. "Let me ask you something. If the person you trusted most suddenly started acting like they were hiding pieces of their life, would you ignore it? Or would you start connecting the dots?" Because I had been connecting them for weeks. Late nights, unanswered calls, a sudden obsession with privacy she never had before, and the way she started locking her phone. That was new, very new. "You've been distant." I said it plainly. "No." She shook her head. "You've been paranoid." "That's convenient." I gave a small, humorless smile. "Turn it around on me." She crossed her arms. "You're exhausting, Carter." The words hit harder than they should have. Not because they were loud, but because they were casual, like she had already decided something about me. Something final. I took a slow breath. "I'm not asking for control." My voice softened slightly. "I'm asking for honesty." Her jaw tightened. "You don't trust me. I don't recognize you." That landed. I saw it. For just a second, something cracked behind her eyes. But then it disappeared, replaced by something colder. "Maybe that's your problem." She picked up her phone, glancing at the screen quickly before locking it again. "You're stuck in who I used to be." That was the first real shift. Not defensive, not reactive, intentional. And suddenly I felt it. That quiet drop in your stomach when a conversation stops being about misunderstanding and starts being about distance. Real distance. "You're right." I nodded slowly. "I don't recognize this version of you." She didn't respond. She just walked past me toward the bedroom, and something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just firmly. "Sloane." She stopped at the hallway entrance. Didn't turn around. "Who were you with tonight?" The silence that followed wasn't normal. It was loaded, carefully measured. Then she turned. Slowly. Her expression wasn't guilty. It wasn't panicked. It was prepared. "With someone who listens." The words were soft, but they cut clean. For a second, I couldn't speak. Not because I didn't have something to say, but because my brain was catching up to what she just admitted. "You're serious." I said it quietly. She held my gaze. "Yes. No hosetaschen. No dinaid. Just truth. Or at least her version of it." The room felt smaller, like the walls had leaned in. "How long?" I asked. She exhaled slowly. "That's not the right question." I almost laughed. Of course it wasn't. "Then what is?" Her eyes softened slightly. Not with guilt, but with something like detachment. "The right question is why you didn't notice sooner." That was the moment everything shifted. Not the affair, not the late nights, but that sentence. Because it wasn't about hiding anymore. It was about justification. And suddenly, I wasn't standing in a marriage. I was standing in a narrative she had already rewritten. Let me ask you something. If someone stops feeling like your partner and starts feeling like a stranger defending their own version of events, are you still in the same relationship? Or are you just the last one to realize it changed? I took a step back, not out of fear, but clarity. "You're blaming me." She shook her head. "No," but her tone said otherwise. "I am explaining." That word, explaining. As if this was logical. As if betrayal had structure. "Then explain this." My voice hardened. "Why didn't you leave?" That caught her off guard. Just slightly. Because I wasn't sure yet. The honesty was brutal. "And now?" I asked. She hesitated. And in that hesitation, everything became clear. "I am." That was the midpoint. The moment where the truth didn't just hurt. It rearranged everything. Because I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to see. This wasn't something that just happened. This was something she had already decided. Before tonight. Before the confrontation. Before I even asked the first question. You already chose. I said it more to myself than to her. She didn't deny it. And somehow, that hurt more than any argument. I walked past her, into the living room. Not running. Not storming out. Just stepping away. Because the fight was over. Not the loud kind. The quiet one. The one where you realize there's nothing left to win. Behind me, I heard her footsteps. Slower this time. Less certain. Carter. Her voice was different now. Not defensive. Not sharp. Something closer to unsure. I didn't turn around. What? A pause. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Of course she didn't. Nobody ever does. That's the problem. I said calmly. You meant for it to happen. Silence. Thick and undeniable. I finally turned. And for the first time that night, she didn't look in control. She looked human. Complicated. Conflicted. But not innocent. I needed something you stopped giving me. She said carefully, like she believed it justified everything. I nodded slowly. Then you should have said that. I tried. No. I shook my head. You hinted. You withdrew. You expected me to read something you never actually said. Her eyes dropped. And for a second, she didn't argue. Because she knew. That part was true. We both failed. She whispered. Maybe. But not equally. And that difference mattered. I didn't betray you. I said quietly. That landed. Hard. She closed her eyes briefly. And when she opened them again, there was something new there. Regret. Not enough to undo anything. But enough to acknowledge it. What happens now? She asked. Simple. Direct. Real. I looked at her. Really looked this time. Not at the woman I married. Not at the stranger she became. But at the person standing in front of me. And I realized something unexpected. I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way I thought I would be. I was done. I think you already decided that. I said. Her lips parted slightly. But no words came out. Because she had. She just didn't expect me to accept it this easily. I walked toward the door. Not dramatically. Not rushed. Just steady. Carter. I paused. Hand on the handle. You're not going to fight for this? That question. It almost made me smile. Because for weeks, that's all I had been doing. Fighting silently. Trying to hold something together she had already let go of. I did. I said softly. You just weren't there to see it. I opened the door. Cool air rushed in. And for the first time in months, I felt something clear. Not relief. Not happiness. But certainty. And sometimes, that's enough. I stepped outside. And I didn't look back.